What is a Dear John letter? It is, as I was writing it down and thinking about it, it's like, this is a relic of the past. The Dear John letter was not exclusively, but it was popularized during the Second World War. And it was oftentimes a letter from a wife or girlfriend back home breaking up with a soldier. You know, it's been too long. You said this was going to be a short deployment. I thought it was going to be easier. I thought that the postman was only going to make me ring twice, but he made me ring 3 times, and therefore it's over. I'm moving on. In our case today, if you'll excuse me, it's our Dear John letter of the day is, of course, for John Thune, Thune. John Thune, of course, is the Senate Majority Leader, a proud Dakotan. Neighbors in both of the North and South Dakota are enormous. But one of the other dubious distinctions that John Thune has, besides really fucking things up in the Congress more generally, is that he's a neighbor of Kristi Noem's. Kristi Noem, before she covered herself in fertilizer, in her recent turn under Donald Trump, was at one time a representative from Dakota, and then she was also the governor. So, and so she has a connection with Thune. You know, he introduced her when she was coming for her testimony, her confirmation, as a courtesy. Well, courtesy is something that John Thune used to do because he was sort of a member of that old guard. I think he's a whole 3 or 4 years older than I am. He's not an old guy. And he is so much better looking that it makes me sad. If, as I always refer to him, as the most handsome coward in all of Washington, D.C. And he still holds that title. He's still wearing that particular crown. But what for you people who are a little bit younger than I am, you're still not getting your mind around the whole Dear John letter thing. Think of it as, I'm just not that into you. I think colloquially, if you'll excuse me, that's kind of how how you young slick kids do that now. You know, you don't want to hurt people's feelings. Now, if I were in a foxhole shooting at Nazis on I was going to say on the Russian front, if any American soldiers were on the Russian front, then they would have gotten really lost. But if I were in France and I were firing at a bunch of Nazis running around with doing Nazi things, and it's like, okay, hey, John, mail call. It's like, oh, this is great. I'm going to get I haven't gotten mail for 3 weeks. I'm going to get some great news from home. And you open it up, and Betty is banging the mailman, and she's leaving you. So we regret to inform you, John, that Betty is no longer Mrs. Smith. Yeah, so that is Dear John. What are the grounds for the breakup in our relationship with John Thune? There are many, but the one that is the math I was doing this morning on the manner in which Vladimir Putin has benefited financially during this entire Iranian adventure. In both before sanctions were lifted, he was doing fine. Since then, it's just been I did a calculation and shared it in the feed on a podcast about 10 days ago, and and now we're a month into the war. I'll do it again because the numbers will be absolutely eye-watering to see how, ironically, both Vladimir Putin and Iran more generally are doing really well right now. One of those two, you can guess which one, we are at war against. You've probably heard about it. The other country is run by a man who is directing a United States president and influencing elections in, as I've talked about before, in Hungary and in Germany and in France and Timbuktu and anywhere else he cares to venture, because he's really good at it. He has a bunch of highly trained teams in 3 different divisions that are able to go into countries. I mean, so much of this, of course, you don't need to physically be present any longer. And in many cases, it's preferable to handle it virtually, if you will. But Vladimir, of course, because he is a winner, he wants to be able to hit on all levels. So he will, like with Hungary, he will have teams in there putting together blood drives, marches, sit-ins, student protests, any variation of those things that you could imagine, he'll be doing it. A little bit at a time. As an incrementalist, he is a much more patient man than Trump. But the reason that Vladimir has driven Trump to move at pace is that, guess why? Vladimir is not at risk of losing an election. If there is an election, it's his election. If there isn't one, who's going to say anything? Right? It's like Xi Jinping. Not in a big hurry, because they're not under they're not listening for the electoral bell that says this is your 1-year warning. You've got to prepare to run in the primaries. That isn't how it works. When you're a real authoritarian in a country where all of the guardrails have been destroyed and remade in your own image, you don't have to worry about that. Trump doesn't have that luxury. Yet. He's working hard for it. Right? But John Thune, the reason that he's getting the letter today, and I'm writing on behalf of all of us, if you are MAGA aligned and aggrieved by the fact that I have the temerity to speak for you, then you will have to, in the immortal words of I think it was Keisha, you're going to have to step off, Grandpa, which is a polite way of saying fuck off, because this is more important than your feels. And what John is at this point, 2026, was John Thune aware that his actions were in fact aiding and abetting treasonous behavior by an American president? Do you want to give him some grace? Was he just kind of, he was curious, he was titillated, he wasn't convinced that that was the case, that there was plausible deniability, that there was shenanigans going on even after the FBI investigations? Mr. Mueller, rest in peace. People, different, Fox and Trump will say, well, the Mueller investigations exonerated Donald Trump completely. No. They were inconclusive at the point that elections for Trump 1.0 were underway. And what did Mueller do? Because he is a man of integrity, right? He didn't. Jim Comey, who we're all of us are rallying to Jim Comey's support and aid properly, but Comey didn't do Hillary or the rest of us any favors. Just to be clear, he fucked up. But right now we need more guns on our side. So if Jim Comey and his daughter and his son-in-law, who's also a renowned litigator and a great public servant, who ran what did he run? Public integrity at a DA's office. Whatever he did, Comey's daughter and son-in-law are accomplished and internationally renowned attorneys, and so we want all of those people. We need them all on our team going into the midterms. So what is our dear John letter is going to read something like, let's see. John, I appreciate everything that you've done for me, us, over the many years. And I know that you've been committed to this relationship, as I have. But it has come to my attention, John, that in the last couple years, there's somebody else. And John, it's not you, it's me. In this case, it's John. But, just trying to wax poetic, a little bit lyrical. Okay, so bear with me. The other man in the relationship, of course, is ultimately Vladimir Putin. He's in our relationship because he has inserted himself, uncomfortable thought, he has inserted himself into American U.S. governance, right, in a meaningful way. John knew, or should have known, that Donald J. Trump is a wholly owned subsidiary of Russian state security. And it's been kind of that thing running in the background. Like, yeah, but that's too great. That's like a novel. That's too crazy. And perhaps that's part of the brilliance of it, because it's, from a psychological warfare, from a strategy point of view, there's an argument that what does outrageous mean to you today versus what would have outraged you in, go 3 years into the Obama administration. Let's do 2013. You're a couple years into Obama 2. Put where you were at that time. What was going on in your life? What would have outraged you? There were world events. The world did not stop. We, many of us, many on this feed, many of those who were kind enough to subscribe and follow, were very pleased with the Obama era of American politics. Never more than we are now, as we look back nostalgically on people that behave with dignity. Trump doesn't know what it means. He's too old to learn, and he has no interest in doing anything that doesn't fluff Donald Trump. Self-fluffing is what what Donald Trump is interested in. Or sycophantics, the people that surround him, and he selects them quite carefully, Pam Bondi, obviously, hasta la vista, baby, right? She's gone. Todd Blanche, who is, he's a, would he be an asset to another regime if he's allowed to stay on, meaning he can, by law, he can stay in the position if Blanche is there under the temporary banner, right? Then I think he's 120 days, something like that. And then he would have to be confirmed for that particular position. In the post-Bondi era, he has practiced for longer than Pam Bondi, but he went to where was Blanche? Well, Blanche, the other Lee Zeldin, the other one that's kind of running in the background, the one that people are talking about in the media, which could be a Trump kind of trial balloon to see how the media reacts to the idea of appointing Zeldin to complete Bondi's term, and sit in as in that temporal. And that they're going to try to play games like they did with Lindsay Halligan, right? That they're like, well, the clock doesn't start till next Tuesday, and she was on vacation and it was Passover, so it doesn't, just we're going to take a little extra, they try to break every rule and norm as it is. So why would they not F with that a little bit too? But, Blanche, we've heard some of the bullshit that's come out about the Epstein files. He hasn't behaved with a great deal of dignity. He went down and met with Ghislaine Maxwell, assured that she got that colder room in hell down in Texas at the facility that she has her puppy dogs and her hot yoga. Is it hot yoga? I think it is. I don't know what that is, but I like saying it. So she's doing fine. I'm still holding out hope that I'll see her at my local ice cream shop, because she used to live right up the street from where I am, in a neighboring town which has a lot of very rich people in houses on the beach. And she and her then guy, not Jeff, the man afterwards, lived there. And I always fantasized about, walking into the local ice cream shop and seeing her in the corner, like eyeing the young kids as they, eyeing the young girls as the young girls go by. So that is just my sick and twisted Ghislaine Maxwell fever dream. Because, what would you say? Hey, you're looking pretty well. Hey, now that you've got some more sun, whatever. You say some, love what you've done with your hair. Was that difficult down in Texas? Hard to get good help. Am I right? So Ghislaine, we'll put her to the side. Todd Blanche, he comes in. He has compared to Zeldin, he has more experience. If I wanted to hire an attorney that could prosecute Donald Trump, the crimes that Trump is guilty of, then that would be Blanche, because he has more experience in white collar, actual prosecutorial experience, like the real thing. Also in private practice. Zeldin, as I understand it, was more of a, he was a rep. He's a licensed attorney, but he had his own firm, but he wasn't a litigator, and certainly not a in the area of white collar crime. Now, of course, we know that Donald Trump is not hiring people that are going to aggressively investigate him. That's what we've seen so far. That's going to continue. But for some reason, I see Blanche as a more qualified replacement than Zeldin. Remains to be seen. It doesn't matter today. Bondi's gone. I think everybody, you want to take a little bit of a victory lap, as it was with Kristi Noem. But we should not spend too much time patting ourselves on the back, because that's sort of what Trump wants with the firings. He's under pressure. If he fires a couple people and the progressives, the Democratic Party members, the House members, breathe a sigh of relief, then maybe they don't attack Trump as aggressively between now and the election. And as we know, it doesn't take much to swing a vote one way or another, especially with nefarious entities operating in the background. Dos Vidania, darling. Yeah, so that is Blanche, that's Zeldin, and Dear John. We'll round out the letter and say, it's amazing how much we can learn from each other, because we've met so much, we've cared so deeply about each other. But now that the gig is up, and it isn't that it used to be you didn't want to know, right? It was never, you can't say you don't know. You can say you didn't want to know, but that doesn't excuse you. It's it is becoming one of the less well-kept secrets in the world. You wanna learn a little bit more about what's in the zeitgeist of people that are observers from other countries. Listen to a few Ukrainian podcasters. Listen to the news from the front lines. Listen to the news from people, Russian expats. Gary Kasparov on this very channel. There are very few serious people that would argue that Trump is not under the influence of Putin and Russian state security. People can argue about degrees. What does it mean? But there was a time when a senior senator, like our former BF, John Thune, would have stood up and said, no, reasonable allegations of impropriety by an American president regarding a relationship with the president of Russia, that is disqualifying. Therefore, with the power that I was endowed with, the oath that I took to protect and defend this country and to stand up for the integrity of this august body, the Senate, we're going to do something about this. We're going to hold some hearings. It's good. Well, DJT's going to be mad. He's going to primary you, John. And then at that point, you're on your John, our ex-boyfriend's at his desk in the Senate office building. Right? And he looks on his desk, and there are pictures of his grandchildren. So he has 2 daughters and 6 grandchildren, something like that. Yeah, maybe in that ballpark. He looks down at the cubes or the framed photos or whatever it is, or one of those slick updating. That probably doesn't have a digital picture frame. He says, "You know what? I'm John fucking Thune. My girlfriend just broke up with me, but damn it, I have dignity. I'm a U.S. Senator, and I'm going to start acting like it. If the President of the United States wants to lay down with dogs, I'm not going to get any of those fleas on me anymore. I'm going to stand up for this country. Damn the torpedoes, damn the consequences, and I'm going to be a patriot, and I'm going to behave in a way that is going to make my grandchildren proud." And if you missed it, my name is John fucking Thune. Senator. Out. Have a good night.